Picture this. It's late 2025. In a boardroom somewhere in Mumbai, the team at Indian beauty giant Nykaa is probably celebrating. Their in-house brand, K-Beauty, has just launched in the UK. But here's the thing. Back home, the race for the Indian beauty consumer is heating up like never before. And for founder Falguni Nayar, the stakes are about to get incredibly high.
To really get the pressure cooker Nykaa is in, you have to see just how fast the entire game is changing around them.
And it all happens so fast. In just over 2 years, the competitive map was totally redrawn. On February 15, 2023, the heavyweight conglomerate Reliance jumps in, launching Tira, this slick, tech-focused beauty chain. Then, just a few months later, they double down, taking over Sephora's entire India operation and promising a massive, rapid expansion. All this while Nykaa is busy making its own global moves, landing K-Beauty in the UK in August of 2025. The clock is absolutely ticking.
Okay, let's get into it. The real dilemma here isn't just about survival. It's way more subtle than that. It's about choosing the very next move, the first big bet for the next 12 to 18 months, without accidentally destroying the very things that made Nykaa a powerhouse to begin with, this deep commitment to curation and capital discipline.
And to really understand that dilemma, that tension, you have to go right back to the beginning of the story.
So back in 2012, Falguni Nayar, a former investment banker, launches Nykaa. And the idea was simple but powerful: create a trusted, online-only store for beauty products. But by 2015, she made a huge pivot. She realized they needed physical stores, so they opened the first Luxe locations, blending clicks and bricks. Then came the massive IPO in 2021, and by 2022, they weren't just a retailer anymore. They launched their Superstore app, becoming a supplier to thousands of other small businesses. An empire built step by step. This is where it gets really smart. You can see how these 3 layers create this powerful, self-reinforcing engine. The consumer stores, both online and off, they build trust, and crucially, they collect a ton of data. Then, that data feeds right into their house of Nykaa brands, letting them create these high-margin products that they know customers are looking for. And finally, that B2B Superstore creates this huge distribution moat, making them an essential partner for thousands of independent retailers. Each piece just makes the other strong. But that beautiful, carefully built model, it is now under serious threat. The market is shifting under their feet, turning into an all-out war that's all about splashy in-store experiences. And, well, really, really deep pockets.
All right, let's anchor this with some numbers. For the 2025 fiscal year, we're talking about a gross merchandise value, that's the total value of everything sold to their platform, of over 15,600 crore rupees. A massive number.
Now, that translated into nearly 8,000 crore in actual net revenue that the company booked.
And all of that was generated across a footprint of just 237 physical stores. And this, right here, is the heart of the problem. Every single new store is a huge capital bet, a huge commitment, in a market that is changing by the day.
So this brings us to the core tension. It's a classic dilemma. On one hand, you have defensibility. You have to build a wider moat, more stores, more brands, more services to keep these huge new competitors out. But on the other hand, you have capital discipline. How do you stick to the founder's DNA of careful, profitable growth when your rivals can literally afford to burn cash for years?
So, this brings Falguni Nayar to this massive crossroads with 4 very different paths forward. And we're not going to tell you which one is right. Instead, we're going to break them down using a couple of really sharp frameworks from our source material.
Okay, so the 4 options on the table are pretty clear. A, go on an absolute store opening blitz to compete on footprint. B, focus on scaling their own profitable brands. C, double down on that business-to-business superstore network. Or D, a more cautious mix of all 3, governed by some really strict rules. Now, to help us think through these, I'm going to give you 2 lenses to look through. The first lens is all about financial discipline. The source material calls them causal gates. Don't let the jargon fool you. It's a simple idea. It just means you have to evolve from relying on a founder's gut instinct to using hard and fast, data-driven rules. So you don't build the next 100 stores just because you can. You build the next 5. And you only build more if those 5 hit very specific financial targets, like paying for themselves in a certain amount of time.
The second lens asks a different question. What's actually hard for a competitor to copy? The analysis calls this the wedge as a bundle. Look, anyone with enough cash can build a fancy store, but can they replicate the deep trust of global brands, the high standards of in-store service, and a profitable owned brand engine all at the same time? That combination, that bundle, that's the real moat.
So let's put these lenses to work. We'll start with the most expensive, most capital-intensive option, hitting the accelerator hard on new store openings.
And this is where those causal gates become so important. Now, I have to be crystal clear here. What you're seeing are illustrative scenarios from the source material. These are classroom assumptions, not the company's actual reported figures, okay? But using this model, we can see that a high-performing luxe store in a big city could, in theory, pay back its initial investment in under 2 years. If you're using a gated strategy, that's a green light. Go for it.
But, and this is a big but, the math looks totally different for a smaller on-trend store in a Tier 2 city. In this scenario, the payback period stretches out to over 5.5 years. So under that same disciplined, gated system, that's a potential red light. You stop. Or at the very least, you pause until you can prove you can either get way more sales or bring down your costs. That's discipline in action.
Okay, now let's quickly look at option B, scaling their owned brands. Again, using the illustrative data, you can see it's a powerful lever for profit. Every 10-point jump in the share of owned brands they sell could boost the company's overall EBITDA margin by 2 percentage points. But the risk here isn't on the spreadsheet, it's about trust. If you push your own products too hard, you risk ticking off the very global brands that make people come to Nykaa in the first place. As for the other options, C, the B2B Superstore, is a cheaper way to build a moat, but it's a slower burn. And D, the staged mix, well, that's really a philosophy. It's about applying these strict gates to every single move and being ruthless about killing what doesn't work. It's disciplined, sure, but it might just be too slow for a land grab.
So as you can probably tell, there is no simple, clean answer here. This isn't some historical case study we're looking back on. This is a live decision happening as we speak. So winning isn't about just picking one path. It's about redefining what success even looks like in this crazy new environment. Over the next 12 to 18 months, I think winning looks like this. Building a deeper moat that you can actually measure, one that competitors can't just buy their way across. And doing it all while holding on for dear life to the financial discipline and the partner trust that got you here in the first place.
Okay, we have laid out the story, the stakes, and the numbers from the source material, so let's try and boil this all down into 3 really critical takeaways.
First takeaway, what got you here won't get you there. Founder's intuition was brilliant for the startup phase, but scaling in this new environment, that requires hard, data-driven rules, those causal gates.
Second, Nykaa's real moat, its most defensible asset, probably isn't any single thing. It's that bundle of trust, service, and owned brands that is just incredibly difficult for a competitor to copy all at once.
And third, every single strategic choice comes with a major trade-off. Going all in on stores could burn through cash, but pushing your own brands too hard could destroy the trust you've spent a decade building.
So, now it is your turn. We're putting you in the CEO's chair. You have to pick a path, A, B, C, or D. And maybe even more important than the path you choose is this. What is the one stop-loss rule you would enforce? What single metric, whether it's store payback period, partner satisfaction scores, or eB2B order frequency, what metric would you use to gate that decision and decide whether to keep going or pull the plug?